Volkanovski secured the bag in Miami. Got it done. Fucking tough fight. Round one, incredibly dominant. I thought the whole fight was dominant. He obviously took a lot of damage, persevered through a lot. I'm out here. I've just arrived in Dubai. He got the bag in Miami. I'm out here in Dubai, hoping at the very least for a handbag. But let's sort of talk about the fight from my perspective and sort of to the involvement I had, right? So, like, oftentimes a coach, especially a grappling coach for MMA, most of the time jiu-jitsu guy's fucking useless. But when we face a guy like Lopez, who is, for all intents and purposes, a brilliant jiu-jitsu fighter in its own right. He's competed in grappling tournaments. He looks brilliant in grappling tournaments. He's got a ton of submissions. I think, from my perspective, one of the most dangerous guards in MMA. I'd never recommend anyone be out there pulling guard for MMA, but if you were going to do it, you'd want it to look like Lopez. So what does Lopez do, and why is it effective? Lopez will use top lock style controls, shoulder traps, and you saw that against his fight in Movsar, when Movsar's jammed in there, unable to strike, and if he hangs out there too long, he's eating strikes from bottom. He tries to rip his arms out, he gets snagged with an armbar. So Lopez finds an ability to take advantage of a mistake. Not a mistake, but it's something that's very common in MMA where guys will be in close guard. They'll get inside bicep ties, they'll posture, and they'll try to throw down strikes. Where he takes advantage of that vulnerability is by shooting up triangles and shooting up arm bars and combining those submission threats and the top lock style shoulder trap to make himself dangerous in positions where you'd ordinarily feel safe. Now, anytime we have to deal with someone that throws up a high guard like that, and that could be something like in pure jiu-jitsu, like rubber guard. Rubber guard is just a version of a high guard. It's obviously got a lot of connotations attached to it because of the 10th planet history and the specific names for moves. Like, a lot of people would identify that as basically the only form of high guard. But again, top lock, Hodger Gracie would use a lot of top lock style positions very, very effectively. We don't see a lot of it in MMA again because it's very dangerous to be there. But if you are a very, very high level grappler, I do personally believe that high level grappling at the extreme level works in MMA and jiu-jitsu. Even leg lock entries work in MMA. It's just to reach a level to make it effective under the threat of strikes, it's diminishing returns because it's going to take you an awfully long time to develop the skills to be effective there. And if you were trying to be efficient in your training, it's probably not worth the reward. But Lopez he's obviously he's Brazilian, he's moved to Mexico. He fights and trains a lot of guys out of Mexico. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is his base. He just has very heavy hands as well. And again, one of the other abilities that he reminds me kind of like Nogueira back in the Pride days was he can take a bit of ground and pound before he throws up and latches onto a submission. But what submissions is he good at? Basically, a lot of the submissions pure Jiu-Jitsu guys are good at. Triangles, arm bars, and he also brilliantly combines a triangle arm bar. And one of his finishes where he shoots up a flying triangle, he basically combines the arm bar and the triangle threat so that the guy cannot commit to the escape, and ultimately he gets finished with a triangle position, but by applying pressure to the elbow there. He does a lot of other crazy shit as well, which I respect, like against Movsar from the standing rib body, like he throws in a Kimura, like he's Sakuraba. These things are incredibly rare for MMA fighters to deal with. And again, ordinarily I wouldn't advise any MMA fighter to have a pure jiu-jitsu guy in the corner. Obviously, most of the times I'm just holding the bucket. In this fight, we didn't see a lot of grappling. I'm holding the bucket and yelling out the time. But one thing we have to do is we have to build confidence in our athlete so that no matter where the fight goes, they're going to be confident there, right? So, like, for a guy like Lopez, I needed to study everything he did. And he'll do shoulder crunch style positions where he'll bait you to rip out for arm bars. A lot of MMA fighters do, again, have the habit of ripping out. But one concept we had to borrow, and that was if we go back in time and we study GSP versus BJ Penn 2, BJ Penn has an incredible high guard position, one of the greatest grapplers to ever compete in MMA. And GSP was able to be in the danger zone, in his close guard, in his high guard, and effectively get out of that. And he was able to do that by a concept of basically being eye to eye from the closed guard position, right? He was able to find this position by pressuring forward. We don't pull out of high guards, despite that instinctually being our response there, right? Well, someone's up top, we're trying to suck ourselves out, pull ourselves out, but as we pull ourselves out from that high guard position, we are vulnerable to arm bar threats here, right? So GSP really wrote the blueprint, I think, from an MMA sense of how to address dangerous guards like that. What wasn't as common back then was guys throwing a lot of elbows from bottom. If you maintain that eye sort of like level contact from close guard, you'll also be able to dodge a lot of those bottom elbows. So the bottom elbows is something that Lopez will do, and he's done it effectively. If you think you're going to just double leg him, sit in his closed guard, and put your eyes basically at his belly button there, he's going to be throwing elbows from bottom. And if you posture out of there, that gives him opportunities to secure high guard positions. And if you strike, he's good at catching arm bars and triangles out of those positions, right? So what Movsar did incredibly well in round 2 of that fight, what GSP did incredibly well against BJ Penn, was very good pummeling inside. One specific example Movsar did against Lopez was Lopez was playing an overhook style guard from bottom and looking for wrist control to shoot up triangles. Movsar pummeled, if we're in the overhook here, turns the thumb down, wraps, comes inside, brings his head up to Diego Lopez's basically head level. He can't be struck from there. Very hard to shoot up triangles or arm bars. And he really has a forward stacking pressure from there. And that's something we needed to build as a habit into Volkanovski. Early in the camp, when I worked with him in Thailand, I had a fair bit of success, as I should, given that all I fucking do is grapple, and I'm 20 kilos heavier. But as the camp progressed, and especially that last week, even with my size and experience advantage in the grappling, as I try to replicate what Diego Lopez did, we had zero success. So what that does is basically build confidence that if Volkanovski ends up in a position that Lopez ordinarily has a ton of success in, throws up a ton of submissions, that Volks doesn't really have to worry about that. And at the end of round 1 was the most effective part of the fight. He was only there for 20 seconds in top. But what you'll notice is he's basically head over head, eye to eye sort of positioning as he builds high. There's something that guys will see when we put someone against the cage, when there's a cage, when there's the wall there, they can basically rest their head onto that fence and have both hands free to strike, and the bottom guy loses his ability to move his hips and that effectiveness and create space and move away from him. Obviously, the cage wall's there. These are the things we really had to work on. Obviously, submission defense is in there too, like late stage defense, but in terms of mitigating the dangers of a guard like that, really, we're going to mitigate a lot of those dangers by staying head over head, constantly moving up the body, forward pressure, removing the habit of pulling out. If you're a pure jiu-jitsu guy watching this, when we're in a position like rubber guard or a top lock, instinctually we want to pull out. We can't do that. We have to move through it, pummel our elbows back in, get our hands back in. We have to be very, very disciplined there. So we didn't get to show this. I wish we'd had an opportunity to end up in that closed guard position more, but we only had 15, 20 seconds there, and it was incredibly effective for Volkanovski. But if you want to see the examples, obviously go back, watch GSP, BJ Penn, the second fight. Look how GSP moved forward, forward pressure through the high guard. He used can openers to fatigue BJ. Well-positioned can opener will actually remove. There won't be an armbar throw. A lot of people think, I go for a can opener, I'm going to throw up an armbar. Wrong. If you reach for a can opener, you get put in an armbar. But if you're able to position your body forward with forward pressure, the can opener will present itself in a safe way. So you even see Volkanovski use a collar tie at the end of round 1 and land some serious ground and pound. So I was really stoked to see that. Unfortunately, it was so effective that Lopez, the guy who's usually complacent about being taken down, did not want to be against the fence or on bottom for the rest of the fight. And that was surprising to me, but I think it just is a testament to how good Volkanovski's grappling is. Ortega was able to put him in a few subs, but really he escaped those, and just his ground and pound is one of the strongest aspects of his game. Not to mention his fence wrestling. But yeah, I mean, basically my summary, I held the bucket, I called the time, but I did my best to replicate Lopez as someone I really, really admire for his ability to use jiu-jitsu and execute jiu-jitsu at a high level in MMA fights. So we replicated that, and I just want to say props to Volks, because by the end of fight camp, closed guard could not work for me, and that gave me an incredible amount of confidence and belief in him that were he to end up there more in the fight, we would have seen the same level of effectiveness as we saw at the end of round 1